Hello everyone, this is Professor DePaulo welcoming you back to Site 265 Fully Online. And so in today's installment of the video, I'm going to be talking about how to write the introduction section. So here we have our home page for Brightspace. And as I said during the introductory video, we want to use the weekly guide. And that'll show us what we have to do moving forward for this week. And it looks like this week we have to write the introduction. So I have two places for the introduction. Here in the weekly guide, which is under week 2, where it says video guide introduction. That's going to be the link to the video you're watching. Introduction here, where it says please submit your introduction as a PDF file. That's where you're going to click on this and you're going to submit your introduction as a PDF file. Right? And if you want the written instructions, then you want to go here where it says writing the introduction to APA manuscript. So I'm going to click on that and show you the written instructions. So click the PDF, and here's the basic instructions. Now, one thing before I start with the instructions is you can find all of this also. Any writing assignment you can find under written assignments. So go back to the home page. If you go down here where it says written assignments, here are all the writing assignments: introduction, method, discussion, title, abstract, and the final paper. So you can always access written assignments. You don't have to go through weekly guide, but you can access the written assignments here as well, and just click here where it says please submit the introduction section as a PDF file. So just letting you know there's multiple places I put it so that there's redundancy and you can find it easily. So let's look at those written instructions. Paragraphs 1 and 2 define the problem. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to start the introduction obviously on a new page. You don't have to write the title introduction because in the APA manuscript we don't write the word introduction as the title of the introduction section. What you're going to do for the final paper is write the full title out at the top of your introduction. So instead of writing introduction, you're going to write the full title of your manuscript. Now, we don't have the title of the manuscript yet. That's going to be done towards the end. So for now, you don't have to write the word introduction. You can just start it out on a new page and start writing. The introduction should be double-spaced. Everything, all written assignments should be double-spaced, 1-inch margins, 12-point font. So don't use like fancy scripts or whatever. 12-point basic font. Times New Roman, Arial, something that's not too fancy, that looks normal, that can read easily. And it's going to be 8 paragraphs long. So when I say 8 paragraphs, I'm giving that as there's a reason behind that. So this whole semester is going to be structured, very well structured, because it's the most efficient use of your time and of my time. And ideally, if you're writing an introduction, you're going to write it, professionally for some journal you want to publish. You're going to stray a little bit from these guidelines. This is the simplest approach to covering what's in the introduction, but also making it structurally sound. What I mean by that is I write my introductions a little bit differently than how I'm going to have you structure yours. And the reason is because you're learning. And this is a very basic research course. And so I want you to get the foundations. And this assignment will give you the foundations to writing the introduction. As you get more experience, as you go to higher levels of education, you may be changing things up a bit. Especially in a graduate school. Especially if you're trying to publish something. It's not going to be as simplistic as what I'm giving you. But it's going to contain the same elements. It's just going to be stylistically a little bit differently. You're going to be writing a little bit more complex writing style and linking things together than you are here. So when I ask for 8 paragraphs, I want 8 paragraphs because it provides the necessary structure to write an effective introduction and to cover all the topics that I want you to cover. So the first 2 paragraphs are simply defining the problem. So we're covering COVID health-related behaviors. like vaccination, like booster shots, like social distancing, wearing a mask, things like that. So things that everybody's tired of talking about. But I'm still interested in gathering data on, because it's not about COVID, it's about the future. It's more about behavior than it is about COVID. And although many people have kind of dismissed this behavior, it's still interesting to see retrospectively how people felt about it. So those first two paragraphs describing why is studying this important, right? So what is the topic? Well, the topic is COVID and health behaviors associated with COVID. And why is it important? So you can give me a little bit of introduction, like in that first paragraph, about COVID. What is COVID? Why was it a big deal? Why are we talking about it? And in that second paragraph, you can talk about possibly learning from this study behaviors that may affect future pandemics or future illness. Because we had COVID, and as I said before, we'll probably have something else. Previous generations had smallpox, which is much more lethal than COVID, although it was highly contagious. But COVID was different in that people were spreading COVID without even knowing they were spreading COVID. With regard to smallpox, that didn't happen. People that were sick with smallpox knew they were sick, and so they stayed home. And spread, although was easily from one person to another that was contagious, people weren't just unknowingly spreading the disease everywhere like they are with COVID. So, what is COVID? Why is it important? Why is it important we study this? And I would sort of steer in the direction of it's going to provide us knowledge that will help us with future pandemics that may be more deadly than COVID. But you can go anywhere you want with that. Those are the first two paragraphs. So paragraphs 3 through 7 have to be based on the literature review. So what I want you to do is to find 5 scholarly articles through either PsycInfo or Google Scholar. Each article of the 5 has to correspond to one of the 5 hypotheses. So if you go down here at the end, we have 5 hypotheses that we're testing. First one is empathy would be positively correlated with mask wearing. So what you want to do is find an article that looks at the relationship between empathy and mask wearing. The second hypothesis is people receiving COVID vaccine will be more empathic than those not receiving the vaccine. Once again, go find a research article talking about vaccination and empathy. Hypothesis 3, health anxiety will be positively correlated with a fear of future pandemics. Find an article looking at health anxiety and how people feel about pandemics or illness in general. And there's lots of research on this. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to have this sentence of a hypothesis actually written in the article. It has to be related to it. So find an article that is closely related to it. It doesn't have to be a perfect fit. It's got to be related. Hypothesis 4, people who have lost friends and family members to COVID will have higher levels of depression and generalized anxiety. There's a lot of information on this. Go find it. Mental health problems following COVID, especially with deaths of friends and family. And the last one, attachment anxiety, would be positively correlated with the desire for family and friends to be vaccinated. Look at attachment style. Attachment anxiety is one big component of attachment style. Look at attachment style, and you guys should remember attachment style from Bowlby and Ainsworth's strain situation paradigm from developmental or child psych, where the kid was either classified, the child, 1-year-old, infant, was classified as either secure, ambivalent, or avoidant, right? Depending on how they reacted to the stranger that came in the room when the mother left, and how they reacted to the mother when the mother rejoined them. It's called the reunion. Now, after these 3 attachment styles were developed early in life, there was more research on adult-related attachment styles, and really how like adult-related attachment styles correspond to your relationships, friendships and romantic relationships. So there's been a lot of research on both the foundational infant-related attachment style and the adult attachment style, and there tends to be stability over time. So how you are as a child or an infant tends to be stable with regard to attachment throughout adulthood. So this last hypothesis is looking at attachment anxiety, which is one component of adult attachment style, and how it's positively correlated to a desire of family and friends to be vaccinated. This is kind of the clingy behavior. That you're overly concerned that, I don't want to lose or have someone ill in my family or my friend. It's sort of really preoccupying me. So these are 5 hypotheses we're going to test, and I would like an article for each of these 5 as close as you can get it. So 5 hypotheses, 5 articles. For those 5 articles, you're going to write 1-paragraph summaries. So paragraph 3 is going to be the summary for article 1. Paragraph 4 is going to be a summary for article 2. Paragraph 5 is going to be a summary for article 3. Paragraph 4 is going to be paragraph 6 is going to be summary for article 4, hypothesis 4, article 4. Paragraph 7 is going to be a summary of hypothesis 5/article 5. So your 5 articles correspond to paragraphs 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So you're going to paraphrase and cite. Citation should be author, year. In parentheses, author, year, citation style. You're going to summarize those articles and you're going to cite. Now, is it hard to summarize an article, the main findings of an article in a paragraph? Yes, not easy. You can make a little bit of larger paragraph. I don't want a paragraph that takes up 2 pages, but you can expand the size of the paragraph and make it a little bit bigger if you have to. But this is sort of teaching you how to write concisely. So convey the information without taking forever to convey it, getting to the point basically. And that's a very important skill to develop. And then the final paragraph, paragraph 8, is just going to be listing in paragraph form. You're going to write out these 5 hypotheses. That's it. So the hypotheses to be tested during the current study include empathy will be. You don't label them 1 through 5. Just write them out in paragraph form as the last paragraph. So that's very easy. This is a simple structure for an introduction, but it's still effective because it still gets me the background information. It gets me the hypotheses that I'm going to test, and those are the most important things. It gets me a little bit introductory material to tell me why the topic's important. Obviously, a professionally written introduction will be a little more complex, but this is a good starting point. This will get you enough knowledge of an introduction that you can go further with it later on in your careers, depending on how far you go, right? Remember, this is an introduction to research methods. You will still have to take a research methods course in psychology at the 4-year or the senior college. So this is just an introduction. Then you're going to take another research methods course at the senior college level. Then if you go to graduate school, you're going to be taking more. And it kind of builds on each other, right? And I've taught this course, and I've also taught the 4-year senior college course when I was at Rutgers. I used to teach that every semester. And so I've kind of scaled that course down to be this course as an introductory to research. Now, is it easy? No, it's not that easy. It requires you to find articles, to read the articles. And when you read the articles, you want to focus on the introduction, the method, the discussion. Very important. Introduction, method, discussion. First, read the abstract. See if the article is, something you want to read, and then read the introduction, the method, discussion. The results you could look at, but sometimes the results are very complicated, and if you don't know the various statistics, the results are going to confuse you. So focus on the introduction, the method, and the discussion. That first paragraph in the discussion should summarize the findings of the article, basically of the results. So once again, first two paragraphs, what is COVID basically? Why is it important to study? Those are two paragraphs. Do you have to cite these first two paragraphs? You don't have to. You don't have to cite them. But you do have to cite 3 through 7. So paragraph 3 will be in one article that corresponds to hypothesis 1 here. Paragraph 4 is one article corresponding to hypothesis 2. Paragraph 5 is one article corresponding to hypothesis 3. Paragraph 6 is one article corresponding to hypothesis 4. And paragraph 7 is one article corresponding to hypothesis 5. That gives you your 7 paragraphs, and the last paragraph is just these 5 hypotheses written in paragraph form. And that's it. Stay to the 8 paragraph structure. Do not go over. I want 8 paragraphs. Please. Make my life easy, and I'm trying to give you a structure. I want you to give me a structure back. Right? What I find is some students just are hard, they don't follow the structure. And for a course like this, you really have to follow the structure as close as you can get to it. So when I say 8 paragraphs, I mean 8 paragraphs. I don't mean 20 paragraphs. I don't mean 10 pages worth of an introduction. More is not necessarily better. You don't want to write too little, but you don't want to write and figure, well, I'm writing a lot, so it's got to be better. It's generally not the case. This is about writing concisely. Give me a solid paragraph summary of each article. One solid paragraph. And then cite it, author, comma, year. Now, how do you find those articles? Well, there's 2 ways to do it. So the first way, we can do Google Scholar. So if you go to, not regular Google. Regular Google is going to get you a lot of garbage. I do not want websites. I also don't want dissertations, because although dissertations are better than websites, they're usually unfinished, and they're not as strongly peer-reviewed. So I would avoid dissertations if they come up. You want peer-reviewed articles. So, first hypothesis, empathy, and vaccination. If you see PDF here or HTML, that means that the whole article is here. Do not pay for anything. Sometimes you won't have an article link. It won't have the article for free. Do not pay for it. Find another article. Do not pay for anything. Here's information about herd immunity and vaccination and empathy promote COVID vaccination intentions. That looks relevant. Click on it. You will get an abstract. When you get the abstract, read through it and see if that's something if that's an article you want to use, an article you want to read. And it kind of looks interesting because it's about online studies from the UK, herd immunity for vaccination and empathy. What did they find? Vaccinated against COVID was correlated with knowledge and a belief in herd immunity through vaccination. So here's empathy. And you have a positive correlation. So there's an article that directly looks at empathy and vaccination. If that interests you, it's an interesting article, you read the whole article. To find the whole article, click either PDF or HTML. This is in the Journal of Health Psychology, which is a journal I read frequently. From 2021. These are your authors. And now you can read the whole article, focus on the introduction, focus on the method. Right? There's study 1 and study 2 here, so it's a little bit more to the method. And then they combine results and discussion. Focus on, if you don't understand the statistics, although here you will because it's correlation. They do talk about R partial. What that is basically a correlation with you filtering something out of it, some kind of variable out of it. It's called partial correlation. You look at it just like correlation. A little bit different statistically. And then here they're summarizing it, right? Results and discussion. If you don't like all the numbers, you can skip through all the numbers and just read the text part. And then here, more specifically, general discussion gives you all text. Doesn't give you any numbers. So I'm not asking you I'm going to do the results for you for this study we're doing. I'm not asking you to do any numbers. Some of you have had statistics, some of you have not. So I'm not requiring you to understand any of it. And if there's questions about statistics in general or whatever, you can always reach out to me. I teach statistics usually in the fall. So I teach the behavioral stats course in person. So that's an in-person course because there's a lot of computer work involved and things like that. So, and that's a good course for graduate school, or if you want to avoid taking stats at the four-year college, you can take stats at BMCC and it'll transfer over. So I think stats is very important. Some people don't like stats. I understand that, so I'm not going to hit you over the head with it. I'm just saying if you have questions, you can ask me, or you can take the stats course I offer in the fall, which will be challenging, but it'll be helpful. And that's it for the article. That's Google Scholar. That's probably the easiest way to find articles. If you want to do PsycInfo, we can do PsycInfo. So you're going to go to the BMCC website here. You want to go to library. I'm going to find library here. Library's up here at the top. So go to library. And then you want to do your databases. And the way I like to do this is I click, type in psychology here, or drag down to psychology. It's a menu here. Psychology, hit go, and you're going to have PsycInfo, Psych articles. There's not much of a big difference between them. You can use either one. I like PsycInfo a little bit better, but Psych articles is really the same thing. Both of these are fine. You have the DSM here, so if you're interested in looking at like clinical disorders for like an abnormal psych or a clinical psych course, you have that. We're not going to use that in this course, but you have full access to the DSM here. I'm going to click on PsycInfo, and I got to log in here. So you got to put your login. I'm already logged in under Brightspace, so it automatically logs me in. If not, you just log in with your credentials. And then you want to type in your search term. So empathy and vaccination. If you use the word and, it narrows it down. If you use the word or, it broadens it out. So this is information. This is the same article we found in the last search here. Here's one about, can altruistic emotions promote vaccine advocacy? Anytime you see HTML full text or PDF full text, that means we have it. Here's one that doesn't have it. This is a dissertation. I would try to avoid dissertation. It'll say dissertation here. But here's one we don't have. You don't see it here. It may ask you for interlibrary loan. Just forget about it. If we don't have it, find another article. Because interlibrary loan is going to take too long to do. It's not worth it. It's not like we have to have this one article. Find something else. There's plenty of articles here. Okay, so let's look at this one. So I would want to read the abstract first. So let me go back. Let me go back and click on this to read the abstract. Make sure this is, here's the short, very short abstract. The study is effectiveness of evoking other-oriented emotions. And just skim through it. The results show that the victim exemplar led to greater empathy, and the moral exemplar led to greater elevation. Okay, so that might be relevant. So what they did was they portrayed a victim, someone that suffered because of lack of vaccination. So basically, someone that died. And when they showed this to people, a scenario where someone died because of lack of vaccination, that led people to be more empathic and go out and get vaccinated. So that's interesting. I mean, that's one way of like sort of promoting vaccination, is manipulating emotions, basically. Manipulating information to that person. And it was a problem. I mean, if you think back to the beginning of COVID, you had a lot of people, especially younger people, that were just like, I don't care. I want to live my life. I'm not going to stay inside. I'm not going to wear a mask. I think this is all, BS. These are lies. They want to control us. I'm going to live my life and whatever happens, happens. Or they were downplaying it, right? You had a lot of that. Was that good for the community as a whole? Probably not. I mean, it's hard for the government to basically control people. Like, this is not China, where they were taking people and basically locking them up, or putting them in the same facility and they couldn't escape. Put all the people that were tested positive together, and that's China. In the U.S. we can't do that. We can't just take you out of your apartment and put you in some detention cell for 2 weeks until you're better. We're not going to do that. So it's up to the individual to make a decision, and a lot of times those decisions could have been problematic. Because even if nothing happened in the immediate vicinity of the person, they may have created a problem that they don't even know about. They may have gotten someone sick that they have no idea they got sick, and that person died. And now that person has no idea. So there was a lot of that happening. I mean, the fatality rate wasn't that high. I mean, I know several people that actually died from COVID. Relatives, older people. I also knew younger people that died. So I knew a lot of people that died, actually. Especially towards the beginning. Multiple family members and friends and colleagues and, tangential friends, right? People you know of in the community. And it was pretty bad. Other people don't know as many people, so maybe it didn't impact them as much because they didn't see it or hear about it as much. And so they were fine, which they didn't think twice about it. I'm going to live my life. I don't know anybody that's sick, and I don't know anyone that died, so therefore it doesn't affect me. But if there's a stronger pandemic in the future, we need to be better at this. And that's why we need to study it now. Because studying it now retroactively, even though the basically pandemic is over, tries to help identify what factors are involved. And if empathy is a big factor, what it seems to be, then how do we increase empathy in people and get them to take things seriously in the future when things may be worse? That's just one of many factors. It's very complicated. It's so layered. I'm only looking at a couple of factors here. There are so many other factors to study. And some of it we can study behaviorally, emotionally, psychologically, and others we can't, like what do we do with high-risk lab situations? Like that was happening in China, like where the safety protocols were non-existent. Do we study pathogens that could lead to pandemics? Is that ethical or not ethical? The U.S. government seems to think it's ethical. The U.S. government's paying for it. So they're not talking about it too much because they were funding it. They were funding the pandemic, basically. And that's not a conspiracy theory. That's from the National Institute of Health. So, yeah, there were a lot of conspiracy theories too. I mean, and trying to knock those down and sort of evaluate which ones have legitimate interests and which ones are just kind of off the top of someone's head. It became very complicated to study. So that's basically your two routes: the Google Scholar and the PsycInfo PsycArticle route. Find 5 articles, one related to each of the 5 hypotheses. Summarize them for paragraphs 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Tack on 1, 2, and 8 in terms of paragraphs, and you're done. Double space, 1-inch margins, readable font, and then I will give you feedback. Make sure you're citing, though. So every time you talk about an article, you want to at least cite in the paragraph. You want to cite at least once in each of those 5 paragraphs that are talking about the research. You want to at least cite one time. Author, comma, year, paraphrase and cite. No direct quotes, no block quotes, None of that. That's not useful in psychological research. That's more for English. And that's pretty much it. Avoid using I. Avoid using I. Avoid using we. Avoid using are, you, your. Because when you write with I this, I that, I think this, we did this, you did this, it sounds like a blog. It doesn't sound like a manuscript. It sounds like a blog. I don't want it to sound like a blog. So avoid I, you, your, we, are. Could you technically write like that? If you used it once in a while, it wouldn't be a problem, but to me, it's very impersonal writing. It's very blog-like. You know, I went here. I think that COVID was a major problem. We did this. My family did that. You know, anecdotes, not important. Do not use anecdotes. That is not professional writing. It might be very relevant to you. It might be a good example, but don't use it because that's not stylistically appropriate for a manuscript. You cannot use anecdotes. Everything that we write is backed by data. It's not opinion. It's not a one-off. It's not an anecdote. It needs to be backed by research, other research, and data from our own research. Right? So no anecdotes, no I's, no we's, no you's, R's, all that stuff. And that's pretty much it. So good luck with this. Let me know if you have any questions, and I look forward to reading them. Try your best. I will give you feedback when I grade them, and then you will revise them for the end of the semester final paper. So bye for now, and see you next time for the method section.